Well, speaking of so many different drivers in your cars, and you mentioned the fact that you had 76 different drivers in your cars at one time or another. 1981, 18 different drivers.
Well, that
drove.
first half was all one. All the way to June, it was Tim. So that's one, and I'm two of the 18. Then the rest of the time, we just made deals, and they knew, whoever was out there looking for a ride knew that I could get them in a car, and we did. We just kept them coming.
Did you have any kind of qualification to allow somebody in your car?
Absolutely.
Or could somebody just come up to you and give you X number of dollars and say, I want in your car?
So you're doing both things, because I'm saying that you said that they have to have a qualification. Yes, they had to have the money. I even took Lake Speed. It was before that time, I think. I took Lake Speed in there when he called me up. I can't remember the year this was. Whenever he started. He said he wanted to have a ride, And I said, what have you done? He said, I was champion in the go-karts. And he said all this stuff that meant nothing, okay? I mean, I knew he knows competition and all that. And then I asked him what his name was. He said Lake Speed. And I said, all right, dude, you show me proof that his name, and he'll tell you this. And he brought his passport in that said Lake Chambers Speed. Said right on it. I told him, if you do that, and we'll make this work. He went out, and we were at Atlanta. And, at that time, you didn't have to have any qualifications. NASCAR didn't require any. If you had a car and you could pass inspection, you could race. And he went out and trying to qualify. He came around on the second lap. He didn't know anything about tires. That on the first lap they were quicker than they were in the second. He didn't know any much about that. He comes around the second lap. He's already half-assed hung out when he comes over there. And then he turns right left and goes right down and smacks the inside wall, turn around and hit the outside wall, and destroyed the car. And that was his first attempt to make a race. And the first time with me, and first time he actually had a Cup car. So we got some stories about those guys too.
Solely because of my buddy Chase Whitaker, I just got to ask, what do you remember about working with Al Loquasto?
Everything. I mean, I can tell you everything. He was one of those guys that he wanted to race. He wanted to race in the big time, and he was there for me anytime I wanted him. He'd come over and work on the car, do what he got to do. Every once in a while, he'd get a couple of grand together, and I'd put him in a car, and he did good. He almost, I think, always brought the car back. He didn't wreck anything, and he was conservative, but he just wanted to race. That's all. And we worked together for a couple of years anyway,
Did he bring the Schaefer sponsorship, or did you already have it?
That was Al Loquasto that brought that.
Okay, yeah.
And you ask about Al Loquasto or Al Elmore?
Loquasto.
Yeah. Okay, well, Al Elmore was the guy I was talking about.
Yeah.
I misunderstood you. Al Loquasto brought that sponsorship and only raced Pocono, maybe Dover for me.
So a couple of weeks ago, I found the Riverside screwdriver story in an old issue of Grand National Scene, and we talked about it here on the show.
I may like to read that edition or that writing because I don't remember that ever being written.
Yeah, You talked about
Riverside, my home track. And I did a lot of stuff over there to get in a race. I did a lot of stuff during it, whatever I had to do. But that time, it was the first lap, I think, of the race. The first time through turn 6, that the motor just quit. And I just coasted over by what was turn 7, and all the way almost into, like right before the straightaway. And I pulled off over and we went all the way to the fence because I didn't know when they were going to come for me.
So you just wanted to fix the car yourself?
Well, I had no option. I'm sitting there in the car, and it's not like it'll turn over, if you hit the starter, but it just. Nothing happened, and I didn't know it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be some electrical issue, or it's going to be internal, like a camshaft or a timing chain or something like that. And the only way to find out what it is, if it's fixable, maybe I can fix it. So I got out of the car in my suit, hat, the whole works, people at the fence right here, and then the people are hey, look at that. I say hello to them, and I got underneath the car, or not underneath the hood, and I said, if I can get the distributor cap off, I can touch the starter, and it's either going to turn or it isn't. Okay, if it doesn't turn, there's something wrong inside the engine. If it turns, it's going to be external. It's going to be something, probably the wiring or some kind of deal that will make it happen. It's all simple. It's all you got to do. I mean, I built all the engines for the cars, so I know everything about them. But on that particular year with that particular distributor, you had to have a screwdriver to get it off. And I'm sitting there with my driving suit, and I don't keep any tools in the car. But I had to do something, and I said, well, maybe somebody there's one of these fans will have that, and I just went over and asked him. I'm trying to hurry, as much as I can, and I said, I need a screwdriver. Does anybody you guys have a screwdriver? And they looked at each other, and I don't know whether their car was 100 miles away or what it was or anything, but that one guy, he said, I got one. I'm gonna go get it for you, okay? And he took off. And I said, well, okay. When he goes over to the camper, I didn't know he was a camper at the time, but he comes back 2 or 3 minutes later, I don't know, 5 maybe, I don't know what it was, bringing a vodka and orange juice, a screwdriver, they call it a screwdriver in the bar. I got it. I got it for you right here. He's holding it over the fence, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, that's a screwdriver, isn't it? And I said, let me have that. How long is it going to take to ever get a real screwdriver? Am I going to be able to fix it when the time comes?
Yeah.
Are they going to come and get me? I had all these question marks up there. And then I said, I can't really. Yes, I can. I drank the screwdriver. and he said to me, he says, you want another one? And I said, hang on a minute. I just crawled over the fence, took my helmet off, and went to his camper with him. And she made me another straight. His daughter was in the camper, and she was cool that the race driver was actually in their camper, and talking to her and all that, and had a drink with her, and got any further questions?
I'm almost afraid to ask.
That might be a good idea, Rick. It was the best DNF I ever had.
Okay. All right.
Now then.
Okay. Let's see. I may not be able to go to church this week. I may need to go to church this week.
Maybe. I don't know. I try to keep it clean. I really do. I could have went into detail with that.
Well, okay. All right. We don't need any detail. Don't need any detail on that one. We'll just leave that one to the imagination.
But I'm sure she remembers.
Okay. All right.
You not take a break? You need to take a break?
No, I'm good. Richard Petty.
Okay.
You mentioned him earlier. He crashed during practice at Charlotte in 1986.
Yep.
And he winds up in your car.
Yep.
What kind of high-level negotiations took place to make that happen?
It was simple. I know Dale Inman, and he knows that I've been known to have other drivers in my car at times, and I had qualified the car for the race myself. I was and I wasn't running for points that year, and I could bail out at any time or I couldn't. And he came and asked me, "Is there something we can do here?" And I told him, I said, "I'd be happy to help." He was trying to keep a string of races together. And he was going for 1,000, and he was at 990 or something, or I don't know what it was, but and I told him I'd be happy to help, and he said, well, what can we do for you? You think I want to, $100,000 would be good. Never talked about money.
Right.
We just said, he said, I got a motor here. I'll put that in your car. We got tires. We'll give you the tires, and Richard's going to start the race. He's probably going to bail out because he's still hurting from this wreck. And I said, well, I'll be ready to jump in when he gets out. And we just left it at that, But I could keep his motor and his tires for the whole day. And it was good enough for me. And we did that, and Dale did, and Richard did, and we did, and that was that. So that's the only time known to man that Richard drove a car owned by somebody else, I think, in NASCAR. I think, they had names on there for a while, like he had some kind of deal with Jim Stacy, I think, at some time.
He drove for Mike Curb for a couple of years.
That's not Mike Curb's car.
Really?
No,
Okay.
He was the owner. He was listed as the owner, and of some team. I don't know what team that was, but it wasn't. I don't know the details.
Right.
Of it. And maybe I'm not the only car that he's driven, but to my knowledge, that is. And, hey, Buddy Baker once told me, he says, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story."
That's a journalist credo number one.
He told me that right in my ear.
You ran 7 races in 1987 and pretty much stepped out of the car from that point forward. I think you ran a couple one-offs for somebody. What went into that decision? Was it just time to concentrate on business?
I went in the corner at Richmond, Virginia, and Davey Allison went in the corner with me, and he beat me so bad, I just said, that's when I decided that, that dream is over. Let's go to the next dream. And at that time, I said, I want to build this into a team that can win, and have to generate money, and if I have a name guy in the car, you can. And that's when I think Ernie came along after that, and we put a deal together with him and Kroger, and those kind of things. I was trying to make a team out of it that was good. And in our last year, we sat on a pole in Atlanta in some year, I don't know what it was, with Greg Sachs was the driver. But, we are trying to build that kind of a team up where we could be competitive in a race. And we led that race for a long time and ran in the top. The only reason we didn't lead anymore is I told Sachs, I said, I don't want you any further up than 5th. Back up.
Yeah.
Back up, dude, and take it easy in the corners because you're going to – we had Hoosier tires at that time. And I said, Sachs is a great guy, all right, one of my favorite individuals that I worked with drivers that I worked with during this time. But he did not have any idea how to manage tires. No, he had one thing, two speeds: stop and on the mat. He didn't know anything else. Okay? Yeah. And we hit the wall so many times in that year, and ran good though. We ran good a lot of places, and we were right in the top 5 all day until we were at Atlanta. And then we also, when we went to the Winston in Charlotte, we qualified faster than anybody else had ever qualified in our qualifying lap. We were 100 and I don't know what it was at that time, 180 or something like that. It was more really fast, but it was because of the tires, and it was because Sachs on the mat.
I read a story one time where you said that Ernie Irvan was pretty much your favorite driver that you had worked with. Why was that? He
would, it happened all those years before when he was telling me he wanted to drive the car, and I never did because he didn't have any money or anything. It was just, and then when I put him in at Martinsville that first time, and he got in the race immediately, and I've been struggling all week myself as a driver. And I could see myself getting older all the time, and your eyesight changes, your reflex change. And I went in that corner with Davey Allison that time, and I said, to hell with this. I'm going to do something else. All right. So when Ernie got in the car and did that, it was all for nothing. It was just he helped me, I helped him. And we just, in the race itself, which nobody knows, there's something went wrong with the exhaust system, and a spring had broken in the seat. We had different seats at that time. A spring had broken in the seat and went down to the floorboard. And this spring was like a conductor of heat from the floorboard up into the seat itself, which went into all those other springs that were in the seat. Right?
Oh, my gosh.
And Ernie had never drove a long race or anything like that. As I said, I think he drove something for Mark Reno, but I don't remember what that was. But he said, just tell me on the radio, he said, man, my ass is burning. And I said, what do you mean, And he said, I feel like I'm on fire. My butt feels like I'm on fire in here, And I said, come on, man. It's only 100 laps into this race,
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'm tired. So he come in on the next pit stop, and we poured water down in the seat, and his steam came up. We poured the water.
Oh, my gosh.
Steam came up. And he went another 50 laps, and he said, I got to get out. I can't do this. And so I said, dude, man up. Come on, man. You can do it, And he stops. He gets out. I get in. and 25 laps down the road, my ass is burning. and I don't know what it is at that time.
Yeah.
I don't. But, man, I'm around a seat like this. I took my gloves off and put one glove under each cheek to try to protect it from the heat. This is while I'm driving, doing the whole time. And I stayed like that for a little while, and then I had to put the hose in the car after I stopped again. I finished the race. But if I pull my britches down right now, you'll see the marks that I have from sitting in that car.
That's okay. I believe you. I believe you.
Only if you pull yours.
We're good. We're good.
End of that story. But anyway, we just became friends, and I told him that we were going to try to put something together, which I had a man from Kroger that was talking to me about it, and we put it all together and then signed him up for 3 years. And he drove the first year for me. I mean, Swerving Irvan isn't anything to what he really was. He wrecked everything until somewhere before Charlotte that year, which is like 10 races into the season or whatever it is. I put him in the body shop, and I told him he's going to fix this car. And we even had like a dog dish that we put Ernie on the dog dish. We painted Ernie on there and put it down on the floor by where he had to hang up his uniform or whatever he did in the garage. And he said, "That's for you, buddy." And we got through it all and got to running pretty good. We led some races, and people started looking at him maybe in that first year, and he ran the second year with me. And then somewhere in, I don't know what the exact dates were or anything, but somewhere in there I think he had a ride set up with Junie Dunleavy or something at that time. I think that's the next place he went to, and he just told me, and as a friend, he said, I need to move on so I can win races. He said, I'll stay right with you until the end of the contract, but I would like to do something a little different, and so I let him go. And that's why I said we're a favorite, because he came to me first, and he said, I'll stay right here. I'll stay right here with you. I got you all the way. And I'm going, I don't know if I got enough cars. But it was, that was, we got through it. And he always learned from me what to do on the big tracks and how to conduct himself. And it was just a good relationship. Was he fast? Yeah, he was fast, faster than my cars. And I could see that happening. And he had, at Bristol, he led for I don't know how many laps. And then something happened. He gets in the pits, and we're like 26-second pit stop.
Yeah.
We just didn't have enough equipment for him, and that's why I wanted to let him go. I thought Junie would be a good guy to go to, and he did, and that was that.
You stayed in the sport through the 1995 season. Was there any one thing that happened to cause you to walk away, or was it just time?
I'd been, like we talked about car owners and things. I was with Ray DeWitt, and he had some money, and I got with him, and then I got with Ted Musgrave and put him in a car. And then doing that, it was a very difficult not a transition, but difficult for me to work with Ray and his wife Diane, and it just was a difficult matter, and
was that maybe because you had been in charge all those years?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I had much more knowledge of the ins and outs of racing and what to do when and so forth. But then Mrs. DeWitt had a better idea for me most of the time. And not to say anything bad about it, it just didn't sit good with me. And I said, how can I fix this? And the way to fix it was I bought them out. And when I say I bought them out, they took everything. And it's like I sold the team in 19. I get the dates I messed up here. Ernie was there for 87, 88, and then Ted from 90, 91, maybe, and then maybe 92. I think Ted was still driving, and then I just said, I've done what I've done, and I had I had the best time of anybody, the whole time. I'd see Richard Petty win a race. Yeah, man, that's over quick. I'm still having fun. I had fun all through the week, all the time. I just had a good time doing these things, and if I told you all the stories, you wouldn't be able to yet turn all this stuff off before I could tell you the stories that happened during that time. But it was good. And then at that time, I just said, I'm gonna do it. And so in 1995, I sold them to Doug Bobble, who was the Jasper guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came time for Daytona, and I was at home, and I always been to Daytona in the last 25 years. No matter what, I was always in Daytona. And I said, I'm gonna go back down there. And I go back. I have a home in Daytona, and I went over there, and I had to talk. I forget who the guy was, the NASCAR guy. I had to talk him into letting me have a real license, even though I didn't have a car at the time. I said, I've been here 25 years, dude. You guys, and they did. They gave me stuff so I could get into the racers. I went in there. First thing I remember is I don't have a tire bill. That was the first thing. 'Cause that was always big, or shuffling tires around or whatever I had to. I don't have to do that. I don't have to make the race. I don't care who wins on Thursday or who does anything like that. And then I said, well, what am I going to do? So I took a spray can, white paint, and borrowed it from somebody. And I went over by the NASCAR trailer and I put a circle on the ground, right, with the white paint. I gave it back to him, and I went over and I stood in that circle. And for the longest time, Dick May came over and said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I needed a place to be, so this is it right here. And I spent the whole day, and it's the only day I went there. I went the first day, and they were just getting ready to qualify. I don't think they were going to do anything that day. They were just going through inspection and doing it. I wanted to see everybody, and I don't know how many people asked me that, what are you doing now? I mean, like now I wasn't racing. What are you doing now? And I said, I'm standing right here. This is my spot. And then I went out of there, and I never came back for, I don't know, several years. I went to my island in the Bahamas. I have a hotel down there that I, through saving those $200 every now and then, made enough to get started down there. And that's another whole story of the entrepreneurial matter where I wound up owning this hotel, airstrip, 64 acres of land with nothing in it. I had no money in it at all of my own. Whatever was made in the Bahamas stayed in the Bahamas, and we spent that on renovating the hotel. I built a beautiful 7,500 square foot house on the beach, and got it all up to a point. And then I had a guy that just had to own it. He had to own it. I didn't want to sell it. I wanted to live there the rest of my life, but we changed that story. There's more to that, but that's enough.
When we talked the other day, it does seem like you're still as busy as you've ever been. What's a normal week like for you these days?
Well, it depends on the week, of course, and I've got a home in Florida, in Daytona Beach. I have a property in the Bahamas. I've sold the hotel. I no longer have that. And I have some trucks that haul cars from the Port of Jacksonville to the dealerships, brand new cars, Toyotas, Lexus, to the dealerships in the southeast. And so I have to keep up with that. I can drive the trucks, but I don't. I mean, I don't want to load them. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
And then I just keep up with that business Monday and Tuesday because payroll's on Tuesday, and I just got to keep track of everything. And right now I have to get 2023 tags for the trucks all by September somewhere. So I have dealing with that, and I deal with that business a couple hours a day or a couple days a week, maybe. I don't know what it is. Depends on the week. Depends on what's happening. And then I like to lay in the sun. I like to. We have a little beer joint there called Downwind Restaurant at Spruce Creek in Florida. Spruce Creek is where they have the we can land our airplane there, put it in your hangar that's hooked to your house, and so it makes it nice to go where you want to go and do that, and just pretty much start new things that I did. For example, during my time, I had a boat that I had made an agreement with Amazon Videos to do some work with them, and I did several things with the movie people in Hollywood. I know some people there from. I had something to do with all the movies that were made with NASCAR over time. I supplied cars for them. I did something. They knew I could pretty well make anything happen. And there was in April of this year, maybe March to begin with, they're making a movie in Finland, Helsinki. They were making a movie about, I don't know, hot cops and robbers, or I don't know what it was, but they were making this movie, a chase movie or whatever it is, and they were using a Russian airplane that belonged to the Russian army, and they'd use it in one set of series, and then they were going to use it in the finishing set of the series where they run down the runway in Helsinki and open the back in this thing, you know, and the guys that were getting away drive up in the as the thing's riding along, you know.
Yeah.
And all that set up with the Russian army to use their airplane. And then, if you remember, there were two Russian troop carrier airplanes that were shot down by the Ukraine people, and that was one of their airplanes that they were going to use, and now they don't have one. All right. And I'd got some airplanes for them before and some boats and whatever they needed, so they called me and said, "What can we do here?" You know, like everything else, it was like, "I can do it. Whatever you need, I'm your guy." You know, and I ain't know where I'm going to find a Russian airplane. I don't know, but they said we need to shoot in like 3 or 4 days or something. It was real quick, and so I called my friend the Devil, who is that's what we call him. His airplane number is 666 Mike Whiskey, so we just call him the Devil. He answers to that. He probably will never listen to this, but someone will hear of it and tell him to listen to it. But he knows everything in Europe. He's from Germany, and he knows everything going on there, and a lot of stuff in aviation. I said, "Dude, I need a Russian airplane tonight."
Tonight.
Yeah, and he said, "Not tonight." And I said, no, I need it. I don't need to have it tonight. I need to have an agreement on it. And so he goes to work, and we found that there was a Russian airplane coming to Frankfurt. It was a U.S. company, but they were going to Frankfurt, and then they were going to. They had freight going into Kiev in Ukraine. This is when the heat of the war was going on over there. And so we hijacked that, or talked to them about it, you know, and said, we're going to take it out of, when you get done with that, we're going to take it out of Frankfurt, we're going to take it up to Helsinki, and then do a film shot for a couple of days, and you can have it back. And we made an agreement, all right? And in a couple of days, I had that worked out, and I flew to Frankfurt. The plane comes in, goes to Kiev, comes back, and I got in a plane with a helmet and you know, military clothes in a plane. It could look like a military plane. They were dressed like that, so they didn't want me to look like a. And I had passport and everything in order. And they actually needed another crewman on the plane, so I became that crewman. We flew up the border of Ukraine and Russia. United States and Ukraine. We're in the not the United States, Germany and I get confused sometimes, but you know, I'm old.
Yeah, well,
I'm nearly 80 years old, you know, and so my memory
I understand.
isn't that good anymore. And I probably couldn't turn left in a race car very good. But anyway, we're flying up the border, and you see the bombs going off over on the right, you know, and I said, "What are we doing here?" You know, and then got to Helsinki, and you look on the map, you'll see it's pretty much up the border, and then over across the water, and then over there, and dropped the plane off, gave him the keys, so to speak, you know, and they had a pilot and crew all stayed with the plane, and they finished their thing up, and then my agreement with them was pretty simple, that I wanted the best hotels and the best seats in the airplane in my whole trip, you know, like that's what I mean. My seat in the airplane, the Russian airplane was wasn't that good.
I can't imagine it being very good.
But it was fun to do.
Yeah.
And my agreement with them for myself was I agreed to do the deal for $225,000, but that was my fee. It didn't buy the airplane. It didn't get anything. But you know, I've had to risk my life over here, and I got to do this. And when I deliver, they know when I deliver, I'm there with it. Everything I've ever done with them in the past. You know, the movies are they got a crew waiting there with cameras and people, 42 people waiting there, and if for one day that cost them. It cost them that easily, that $200,000 if they were one day late. And I'm on time, and I'll be there, and I see that they do it, and I get out of there. And then flew back to New York, went to Heathrow, London, and then from there to New York. And then I got off the plane in New York, met with the money people, and we went to the hotel, and they gave me money in cash. Now, I didn't really get that in cash, just in case the IRS is looking here. They gave me we just shook hands and left. But we did that, and so I do those kind of things. We did with my boat, we did a series of called Below Deck that we went took my boat. I took it.
That's your boat?
Yeah. This is in it's going to be like 17, maybe 2017. Yeah. You took the boat down there and worked for them for 6 weeks. And they paid me a fee for that, and just, hey, it was fun. You know, we had a great time down there and went to all the islands, and you know, with them, I had to disappear. You know, I'm not the boat that they're working with. I was the crew. I fed the crew, and I had a team of people on there, including a cook and some other, all Bahamian, and they're all different kind of people that were on there that I knew, and put them on the boat, and paid them a fee, and they paid me a fee for doing that. I happened to sink the boat during that time too, but the way it goes sometimes.
Oh well.
No, it was a simple deal, you know. But it's the boat was sunk to the bottom, and a beautiful boat, 80 feet.
What happened?
I was backing into the place we were. Every night we would moor the boat somewhere, and this night we were at King Louis or something like that marina in I can't even remember where it was at. It's in I can't remember what island it was, but we were in there, and they do med mooring there. If you know what med mooring is, that's like they're in a circle, and you hook the two buoys out here and back the boat in and hook it to the here, and then you get off the back of the boat into the dock and do whatever you're doing. But you had to back between these boats, and I'm telling you, when you go between them, you put your fenders out, and I am a Coast Guard captain, by the way, up to 200 tons, and you put the fenders out, and it's squashing fenders on each side. That's how tight it is going into where we were parking. And when I backed in, there was a mooring out here that I was going to tie up to eventually, but there was a mooring out there and a boat tied to it over here, and then a mooring over here with that boat tied over here. And I had to back between the moorings, which is nothing, and just get it organized and then go straight back. You're not even doing one knot,
Right.
You're just barely moving. But I backed up close to this one over here, and then pushed forward. I'm 3 stories up in the boat, looking at everything, and I pushed the throttle forward, and the boat went backward. That don't happen,
Yeah.
But it did. And I shut everything down and went under the boat. And the guy that went under, he said, "It looks all right to me down here, but he just forgot to look because the props were tied up in a painter line that was laying by that buoy somewhere. Somehow, I didn't hit the buoy, but it got around the prop, right. And the prop was going that way, and even in reverse. I mean, it was going this direction, and when the line tightened up, it pulled the boat back, even though it was trying to go forward, and that's it. That's all that happened. We looked at it, and after I'm freaked out, and I look, and I'm looking at the boat, talking to Cappy, my man that was there. Something didn't look right, and it was listing to one side or the other. And then Cappy opened the back lazarette, looked down in there, and all you could see was water. And my cabin is right in front of that, just forward of that. And I looked in there, and the bed was underwater, and everything was waist deep in the cabin. And my football, or whatever you want to, I call my briefcase a football, because I got to keep it there. And it was underwater, and it had passports, money, papers for the boat, and everything. So my wife was with me, and she dove under the water to find that, and got it out, and we got out of the basement of the boat, out of the bilge, and tried everything, but it just kept sinking. We even had the the boat, the emergency boat that they had at the marina with the big suction thing to get the water out. It didn't work. They couldn't get it to work, and it just kept going down and down and down. Pretty soon we had to get off, and we started. The locals went inside the boat for us and just grabbed everything they could and took it out. Everything, unhooked. They had toolboxes. They unhooked the TVs, whatever was down there. They got it, threw it out of their boat, piled it all up on a pier down the road, and the boat went to the bottom. There was that. That was all. That was all there was to the Queen.
Wow.
Silver Queen, she was called.
All right, man. I don't know what.
Have I bored you yet?
No. I don't know how to follow up on that.
It took us. I had to go get a boat, another one, to finish my project with film company, and we found it was actually a sailboat, but it was about 60 feet, and it had a captain with it, so it took a little away from me, but I still provided the boat, made a deal with them, and we provided the boat and finished the project. That was that. That was the end of my boat.